So here's what I was thinking about with the Niners, and I kind of was on the YouTube chat throwing it out there. And it's something about Kyle that we know is a fact, but we don't talk about it a whole lot, and that is he's the head coach of the Niners, and he's also got all the say in personnel. And
the man.
There's a what's the word? There's a when you say, oh, the guy's the coach and the GM, I feel like there's a negative perception about that. That's a really hard thing to do. And now, after years of certain people doing it, there's always that question about, well, who's making the move? Kyle the coach or Kyle the GM? So I was just thinking about in the Bay Area for a second. So we had Don Nelson once. Don Nelson was the coach and GM of the Golden State Warriors. He was the coach, and he had all the power. What did he do? He ended up trading Chris Webber. Why? Because the coach, Don Nelson, had a problem with Chris Webber.
I'll never forgive him. Yep.
There was also a situation back with the Warriors where they hired P.J. Carlesimo as the head coach. They hired the head coach before they hired the general manager. So the owner hired the head coach, P.J. Carlesimo. Then they hired Gary St. Jean as the general manager. Only thing was, P.J. Carlesimo had all the power as the coach. He drafted Donald Foyle over Tracy McGrady.
Oh, my goodness.
Here's another one. Remember when the Warriors fired Mark Jackson? Remember who was going to take the job? Remember who was a sliver away from taking the job? Stan Van Gundy. But Stan Van Gundy wanted personnel power. And Joe Lacob said, I just don't like that. I don't like that idea. Van Gundy then turned it down, went to Detroit, where he had all the say-so over personnel. But I remember talking to Joe Lacob, and he just didn't like the idea of one guy having that much power. Well, you know what?
It wasn't anything against Stan. It was just one guy having...
Exactly. He didn't get...
So some people are saying, okay, Steiny, real quick, John Lynch is the general manager.
No, he's not.
See, that's
he's the GM, but let's
by title only, you're saying.
Let's not insult 49er fans by actually making it seem like John Lynch is making the decisions. Kyle makes the decisions.
So I'm curious on that.
John Lynch is a figurehead who's very good talking to the public and representing the 49ers
So
organization.
Friday when Kyle spoke, I was all ears. I'm wondering, once John spoke, were you like, all right, I can go get a soda?
No, because I like to hear John Lynch talk.
Because he's good
and John
at
Lynch is going to try to be on the same page as Kyle Shanahan. But make no mistake, this is Kyle's show.
Wow, man.
Evan,
is John Lynch
go ahead,
the
Evan,
general manager or generally a manager?
I'm going to come back from Rome with a 4. What was that, 3?
What's a low...
3.5.
Listen, John Lynch is a class act.
But the way we just said that, you said that about him, some could be like, oh, that was a shot,
Well,
Steiny,
I didn't say
it's
he's
reality.
generally a manager.
No, that was
Evan.
No, yours was worse than Evan's.
What? He's a figurehead.
Right.
That's not a bad term. So's Nahigian. What's the difference?
No, he's the boss, though.
He's not the boss of Kyle. Kyle Shanahan has one boss.
No doubt.
Well, all right, I think John Lynch is a big boy. He's in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's going to get offended by me saying he works for Kyle Shanahan. The point is general perception is that's a negative. We've never really gotten into it with Kyle, though, and that aspect of it.
I'll say this about your Nelly comp, and you can say, well, Goo, we're not talking about it. Tell me. The one thing that, some days I have my pitchforks for Kyle, and it's situational play calling, not throwing that flag. Okay, all that's data points is in my file. But Steiny, unlike Nelson, this dude's getting to the Western Conference Finals. This dude's getting to the finals. So I guess it's working right now. The wins and losses are working for him. And I'm still my fat pie hole, like I told you in Vegas. He's so good, Steiny, that I don't think it's shade when I say, okay, Kyle, I know you're brass. I know you're cocky. You got the power. Bring me that ring back. That's what perspective, like it ain't that way for everybody. You know what I mean? He's got everything.
Who?
Kyle Shanahan.
I know. Does he have too much?
We're going to find out.
Well, he was given, and here's the other thing. How old is he now? 42? 43?
He got a little gray.
So he was given everything at 35 or 36.
I wish I was.
That's when he was given everything.
Yeah.
Pretty good first gig. Let's go to Mike in Berkeley. What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
First gig. Wow.
Hey, guys, how are you today?
Mike.
Doing well.
Doing well. Hey, I kind of compare the 49ers to a ship that's taken on some water, and they're able to bail it out and survive it. But I think Kyle's ego is going to sink it.
Do you really?
And here's why. If you remember the timeline, the 49ers, when they traded up to get the number 3 pick, that trade did not happen the day before or even the week before. It was like 5 or 6 weeks before.
Right.
So they didn't initially trade for Trey Lance. They traded for the number 3
Correct.
pick, which Kyle had the media attention from all over the country. Everybody wanted to know. You guys are the same way. Every sports talk show in the Bay Area, and like I said, all over the country were wanting to know, Kyle, what are you going to do with a pick? Kyle, what are you going to do with a pick? And he ate that up with a blender. So that tells you how big his ego is.
Oh, yeah.
And his knowledge of personnel, maybe for 1 or 2 positions, I would give him that. But for the rest of the team, that's what's going to sink him. His ego is going to. If he made this bad of a move, and this is colossal, if he made this bad of a move, what's to stop him from Plan B?
Yeah. Hey, let me lay this on you. His ego. I look at the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. This is just me. I look at the Tampa Bay Super Bowl a couple years ago, the win over Kansas City, as the Niners Super Bowl. And I believe, and I've told Steiny this, you tell me what you think, his ego is why they didn't go all in on Brady, because his ego didn't want to share the credit. Do you buy that?
100%.
Yeah.
And if you look at him as an OC with Atlanta, that's ego right there. They should. That was a Super Bowl win. They were engraving the trophy, and he chose not to do the common sense thing. He chose to do what would make him look good.
Appreciate
it. I just have a feeling that his whole life and career, he's been, being the son of Mike Shanahan has gotten him farther than maybe his talents, except for an offensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater.
Right.
He's an outstanding play caller.
No doubt.
But that's where you draw the line. You're a Dallas fan, right?
Yeah.
North Turner comes to mind, and
great OC, can't be a head coach. Yeah, North Turner.
It's the same thing. Outstanding play caller, excellent evaluator of offensive talent, but couldn't manage a game to save his life.